Welcome to another episode of Rewind with Rekenya. So I ran a poll right here on the channel asking who's your favorite lead singer of The Temptations, and over 500 of you voted, so thank you. So today we're breaking down those results, starting off with some honorable mentions, then counting down from the lowest votes to the fan favorite. Let's talk about what made each of these members unforgettable. So before we get into the top four, let's take a moment to give flowers to a few Temptations who didn't make the poll, but still carry the mic like seasoned pros, which they are. We're going to start with, actually, this is one of my favorites, and it's one of my dad's favorites, too. Ollie Woodson. You may know his powerful vocals from Treat Her Like a Lady, but he wasn't just a singer. He was a true showman. He had that true Temptations aura, and he helped to bring the Temptations into the modern era during the 1980s, blending the classic soul with that New Jack Swing energy. His voice was gritty, soulful, and full of charisma. For many fans, he was the voice of the group in that era, and for good reason, because he was amazing. Now let's move to Richard Street. And actually, if I could have did this in a different order, because Richard Street was there first. But Richard Street was a smooth and steady tenor. He was around in the early days and remained a friend of the group, stepping in during times of huge changes. And if you watched the Temptations movie, then you know. He helped to keep that signature Temptations harmony intact through the 1970s and the early 80s. While he may not always get the spotlight, he wasn't someone who you may have known necessarily by name, but his presence kept the group's vocal blend seamless when they needed it the most. And I think a group that had an emphasis on perfecting their brand like the Temptations has really needed someone like Richard to help keep things in order. Next, we have Louis Price. So he had a short run after Dennis Edwards left, but Louis brought a strong church-trained voice to the table, which Dennis had. His lead vocals on the Bareback album stand out to this day. He didn't have the longest tenure, but his contribution did leave an impression on fans, especially the fans who had followed the group into that disco era that was, again, after Dennis Edwards' era. And then Ron Tyson. Now, here is someone who is still going strong. Ron joined in the early 80s and brought a silky falsetto that reminded fans of Eddie Kendricks. With decades now under his belt, he has become one of the group's longest standing members behind Otis. He's carried that falsetto torch beautifully and kept the legacy alive on the stage, because he's a showman as well, and in the studio. So these guys may not have that same brand recognition as, David Ruffin or Eddie Kendricks or even Paul Williams, but they have kept the Temptations alive through the decades of change, both internally and in the industry, because they had a lot of different sounds. So now let's rank these results. Let's get our countdown going from the lowest votes to the highest. Please note, disclaimer, that this is based on the poll results and just a little bit of my opinion, but I'm going to tell you my favorite at the actual, at the end. So coming in fourth with 5% of the vote is Dennis Edwards. So Mr. Edwards replaced David Ruffin in 1968 and helped to take the Temptations into the psychedelic soul era. While it's not my favorite because of the style, songs like Cloud Nine, Ball of Confusion, and Papa Was a Rolling Stone wouldn't have hit the same without his gritty, gospel-infused, that strong voice that he had. He gave the group edge and urgency, but like me, I see a lot of votes were in favor more of that traditional Motown sound. Going into the Motown sound is next, we have Paul Williams, who got 6% of the vote. Now, Paul was one of the group's original leads and the soul of the early Temptations. I'm actually shocked that the votes for Paul are so low. He sang lead on Don't Look Back and was also the choreographer for a while. So much of that classic Temptations cool factor came from Paul. He didn't always get the spotlight, but real fans of the Temptations know that his presence was a force. It was powerful, and his voice is phenomenal. It's like you felt the emotion when he was singing. Now at number 15, at 15%, what am I talking about? At 15%, so this is number 2 in the rankings, is the smooth falsetto himself, Eddie Kendricks. With 15% of the vote, this is quite surprising because it's Eddie Kendricks. But he gave us The Way You Do the Things You Do, Just My Imagination, and Get Ready. And that voice is just iconic. Let's not forget his solo work on Keep On Truckin'. I still listen to that, and Intimate Friends. Oh my God, Intimate Friends is that's such a beautiful song to me. Eddie was elegance and range and emotion all rolled into one. He has one of the most distinguished voices in history, in my opinion. And now we're at number 1, the winner. And this is by a landslide with a whopping 73%. It's none other than David Ruffin. I mean, what else can we say? The man was the Temptations' voice during their peak. From My Girl to Ain't Too Proud to Beg to I Wish It Would Rain, David's raw, passionate, pleading style, because my dad used to always say they felt like he was like crying in the microphone. It connected instantly with the audience. His voice could break your heart and make you dance at the same time. Even with the drama, fans still see him as a definitive lead. In my opinion, he's the face of the brand. Although he had one of the shortest stints in the group, and of course, this is still the oldest group. The Temptations movie also helped to kind of solidify this, that it was about David. And it's clearly for the fans, it's still about David Ruffin. But that's a whole other discussion. So now that you have ranked these lead singers of the Temptations, I just have to say I'm slightly surprised. Again, I said this a little earlier. I'm slightly surprised that it was such a big jump in the percentage from Eddie Kendricks to David Ruffin. But David Ruffin is also my favorite lead. So I'm a fan of that classic sound, so I get it. It's always fun, though, to see how you all think. So I appreciate everyone who voted. Were you team David Ruffin, or are you riding with Eddie, Paul, Dennis, or someone else? Let me know. I know we didn't mention Otis or Melvin in this video, but you all didn't vote for them, or I didn't see them in the comments. So it is what it is, Drop your thoughts in the comments and let me know if you want me to rank the best Temptation songs, albums, or even the solo careers next, because I think we could get into some good conversations on those. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will not take as long on the next video. But you guys, as I've said before, like between being a full-time mom with a full-time job and just a full-time life be lifing. I get a little busy, but I do want to come back to making videos more consistently. And I appreciate you all for being so patient and still like